3,
yes,
right? I know.
Yes, they burned.
They burned.
They were painful.
I know, but I love them.
Yeah.
Like nothing is as effective.
They really aren't. Yeah, they're great.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out to Zibby's Bookshop tonight. We're very happy to have you all. And we're so excited to celebrate Courtney Preiss's debut novel. Welcome home, Caroline Kline.
Thank you.
And as a conversation partner, we have Mara Wilson. She is a writer, an actress, and a voice actress, and she has special insight into this book because she did the audiobook, which is very exciting. So we will have about 30 minutes of conversation and then about 15 minutes of Q&A, and then we will have time for signings.
All right. So first of all, I have to start off by saying I feel personally, being a Jewish American, that you are kind of, I feel like if you're in a Jewish family, you are basically a basketball family or a baseball family.
100%.
And yours was very clearly a baseball family,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Which yours was too.
Mine was too. Mine
Yeah.
was too. Not to the extent that yours was.
Okay.
Probably because, I mean, I love the Dodgers, but, they're not exactly as consistent as some East Coast teams. But
they weren't consistent when they were an East Coast team either. If
that's true. That's true. I mean,
True.
Okay, yes, but we love them. But we love them, all right. But yeah, so you were a baseball family too,
yes,
obviously.
Big time
Yes.
baseball family.
And you played baseball?
I played
Or softball?
baseball. I played softball.
Mm-hmm.
My sister played baseball actually. She
Really?
she joined the league before there was like very limited softball like for girls offerings when we were growing up in our town. And I was actually part of the inaugural girls team, which is a league of their own. We were the Rockford Peaches if the Rockford Peaches sucked. And we were like if Racine Bells won the World Series, we were like the team that you don't know their name because like they were not good. But it was like a limited age group. There were only 4 teams. It was girls like I think like 9 to 12. And then my sister, also a very consummate baseball player, wanted to play. And they were like, we don't have enough girls that age. So they put her on the boys team.
Mm-hmm.
She was on the Mets. And my mother was the team mom, and she wore a Yankees jersey in the photo because she was like, "I'm not wearing the Mets thing."
Yeah,
and started a fuss.
I mean, that tears a family apart.
It does. No, I was on the Red Sox one year. Like it was like a whole nightmare. It was a dark time in the Preiss family's history, me wearing that Red Sox shirt.
So do you think that there was anything, I mean, how much of that, including your sister being on an all boys team, how much of that do you think inspired this book?
I'm like, why didn't I put that together before? I'm like, why is this the first time I'm thinking or talking about that in so long? Hugely, because my father played on like the local like all men's softball team in our hometown for 3 decades. He's not playing this year, which is like very upsetting to me. He claims that like he was hurt last year and so he didn't play last year. And now this year he is like, I have too much going on. I'm going to miss too many weekends. And I'm like, I need you to get out there and sell my book.
Yeah.
To these men.
Yes.
Who are loosely in the book and very litigious, but I hope they're going to like not be for this one instance.
If there's a bad call, you can throw a book,
Correct.
Something like that.
Correct.
Yeah. People pick it up. What's this? Yes.
So he was always on this men's team. And when my brothers came of age, I'm the oldest of 4 children. And I have 2 brothers. And when they came of age, they were able to join the team with him. Mm-hmm. And my sister and I, again, very consummate baseball players. My sister has an arm like a rocket. I'm the best natural batter in the family. So just saying. And then, like we weren't allowed, like my sister and I would like, threaten. We'd be like, the whole origin story of this novel is that my dad was hurt a couple of years ago and I was sitting on the sidelines with him. And it was like a very surreal experience to like watch his game without him. And I was like, should we Mulan it? Like, should I like tuck my hair under the cap and just like get out there? Like I can play third base.
Yeah.
And I was like, that would be a good concept for a novel. And this is where we netted out. So very much drawn from that experience of being like a little bit like girls in the boys club kind of thing, or like threatening to break into the boys club. Ripped from real life.
I mean, it is still, I think that there's a lot of, there's a lot of places now where gender is less of an issue, where women can be, but there are still definitely some places where, there are old school men who are like, absolutely not. Nope. Stay out of our space.
Monmouth County, New Jersey, I'd say is like maybe like not, I don't know, not to say that like Monmouth County doesn't have like progressive folks there, but like,
yeah,
I don't know, when you return to that sort of like hometown suburbia lifestyle, especially like coming from a big city and going there, you're like, okay, we got a little retrograde vibe going on. Like gender seems to still be a binary here. So, okay. It's a lot.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I have in common with Caroline Kline is that I'm from the LA area and I moved back to LA.
Yes.
And I think that that's something that, you touch on in this book. And there is this feeling of, am I a failure going back to where I'm from? Is this the wrong thing to do? Am I giving up my life? Feeling that gut punch when you miss it. But then also sometimes going back to the place you lived before and being like, how did I ever live here?
Oh my God.
Is that something that,
yes.
Because you grew up in New Jersey, right?
Yes, I was.
And yes.
I always tell, I'm like, I was born in Brooklyn. I lived there till I was 4. Yes, I was.
Well, I do that now I tell people, I'm like, well, yes, I'm from LA, but I lived in New York for 11 years. Yes.
Which you have to do. Like
yes.
To me, like that makes a difference.
Yeah.
Like, you need to know. Yeah, I'm a 4th generation Brooklynite, and my parents were like, these kids need grass. They literally invented touch grass. They're like, these kids need to touch grass. They moved us to Marlboro, New Jersey in 1993. And knowing that like we would only just ever want to go back to the city, which we did. Mm-hmm. And, I lived in Brooklyn for a decade. And I moved to Asbury Park in late 2019. I did not like foresee the pandemic coming, that everyone was like, wow, you like really got out of there fast. I'm like, I got out before it happened. And I was I feel like I was talking to my therapist for months before leaving. Like I was just like, we have to brace for this. I'm like, we have to brace for this, because I really felt like my identity was like very tethered to living in Brooklyn, living in New York City, being of the city, and, separating myself from, I grew up not liking Bruce Springsteen. Like I was like too on the nose.
Okay.
Like too close.
Fighting words. Even, yes.
I know. I'm sorry. I love him now. I know. I love him now, but I had to, like, I just felt like it was like too close growing up, and I'd be like sprung from cages on Highway 9. And then like we went to college and we'd be like sprung from cages on Highway 9. Like, yes.
That's much cooler than me and my friends singing along to Sublime, I gotta say.
You could relate to that one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah,
But so there's a lot. Do we want to get into process?
Sure.
Yeah. Let's talk about.
Love.
So what was the process of writing this like for you?
Okay. So I wrote this book in deep lockdown. I started it around the time that I moved to New Jersey, because in retrospect, in hindsight, I'm a little bit like, I think that the part of my brain that was so focused on survival in New York City was just like free all of a sudden. It was like, I'm going to write a novel now. So I started at the end of 2019. And then of course, I think like everybody else, for, March and April, I was completely paralyzed by anxiety, like not functioning. And then I started to pick it back up again. And Jamie Attenberg, who I thank in the acknowledgements for this book, she does not know me from Moses. Jamie Attenberg had this writing challenge that she'd been doing for a couple of years, and now it's like really picked up steam. Like she's done like a whole book about it that came out in January. I think it's here. The race is on to see if any of you want it. I think there's a copy here. She has a writing challenge called 1,000 Words of Summer, and basically it's like a remote sort of thing where it's like everybody goes at their own pace or like on their own schedule, but the goal is to write 1,000 words a day, every single day for 2 weeks. And to like share your experience on social media, like through a hashtag. Before that, like I hated sharing any process things on social media because I didn't want people to know what I was working on, because if I failed, I didn't want them to see. And I'm just like, I wasn't like a hashtag girly. I'm like, I have like writer friends. Like, I'm not going to like connect to the community through this, but like, I was wrong. I started doing that. I started like meeting other people who were, doing the same thing, and getting messages from people who I've known forever, just being like, oh my God, I love following along with this. And like, I wouldn't post much. I'd post a picture of like my mug of coffee and like, 1032 words by 8:15 and like done, and hashtag 1,000 words of summer. And once the 2-week challenge was over, I kept going for the next month and a half, and I had a finished draft. So 1,000 words a day, first thing in the morning, before email, before news, before anything, 1,000 words a day, chipped away at it. And that is how this came to be.
I mean, it works, right?
It works.
I mean, there's a lot of, I think that that's also something that we find in this book, is the idea of, maybe something seems a little cheesy at first, but hey, it works. I think that a lot of what this book is about community.
Yes.
And we had a talk about this the other day, and speaking of community, I narrated this whole book, and I think I thought the name sounded familiar. And then I saw a picture of you and I was like, I recognize that pretty face. And yeah, it turns out that we knew each other in New York.
Yes, we had a bunch
friends
of
in common.
mutual friends in common. Yeah.
But it's so much about, I think especially as it pertains to, like we were talking about the idea of third spaces, which is something that, something that is not, that's not home, that's not work, and that like maybe like places where there are, this is probably one.
A great third space.
Yeah, like places that are not, where you don't necessarily have to like spend a lot of money just to get in. You can go and there can be community, and there can be that kind of thing. And baseball being a thing for that, baseball being this great community. And we talked a little bit about that. And also, I think one thing that's important in this book is the idea of and how like sobriety relates to this book.
Yes.
And so much of sobriety, I feel like, is about community.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that as well?
I do. I always clarify that I am not in active recovery and like have not worked a 12-step program, but I have a lot of close friends who have, I have a lot of family who have. So like that's like a very close experience to me. And like, to be completely candid, like I think that like I'm just at this age because I find that like a lot of my other friends my age, like we're having a lot of conversations about this, just like we're recalibrating our relationships with alcohol, you know, like we're just like at that age where it's just like kind of like playing around with the levers and seeing what works for us, and like reassessing in a way that like, yeah, it is definitely a pivot point from, I think, a lot of our behaviors in our 20s. So, and I tried to write Caroline from that perspective, right? Like she's not in AA, but she definitely has kind of like a problematic drinking streak, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, and is pursuing a little bit of like an unconventional path to sobriety that still involves community. Like community is so essential to that. And like the folks who she ends up finding, whether it's, her first crush is like an old friend who's a sober musician. And then by way of him, like all of these other sober musicians, like that's such a fun community. I'm like, I want to be part of a community of sober musicians.
Yeah. I mean, he plays Todd Rundgren songs for her, who, we've
talked about this.
We've talked about this, and we both love.
I love that like there are people our age who love Todd Rundgren. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. My publicist is huge on him too. So I'll have to give her this book. Be like, look who's in this.
I know. You guys, there's a lot of, if you haven't read it yet, there's a lot of Todd Rundgren references in here.
Well, there's a lot of music in general. It's
there
not,
is,
I mean, there's baseball, but there's also music and connecting with people through music.
I live in Asbury Park, so it was like very important for me I live in Asbury Park and I like love music. I love music in a way that like I can't play it. So I feel, and I'm married to a musician. So I kind of feel like this like can't really be my thing, but like I I love music as much as somebody can without the ability to perform it.
Yeah.
And I live in such a unique, just like such a singular kind of like rock and roll beach town. And, you know, if you've been to anyone who's been to Asbury Park knows that even though it's obviously changed a lot over the last few years, that music blueprint is so unique and like so special to the town. So I felt like this needed to, have a little musical streak running through it.
There's definitely, I mean, there's so much good, you know, so many shout outs to just great bands and, you know, and of course, like, you know, Bruce Springsteen, who's kind of I mean, I was talking with Danny DeVito recently about like what he means to New Jersey, you know?
Yeah.
And I think right after I recorded this, I saw him and I was like, you know, I just recorded I think he called me as I was on my way home. And I was like, I was just calling and I was like, I was literally just recording a book that takes place in your hometown. So now he knows. But yeah, you know, it's, it's, you know, I always joke that like, I personally think that I have a theory that people from I would say from Southern California and New Jersey get along really well. Sometimes also with people from Long Island and occasionally Florida.
Yeah.
I think there's similar. It depends on what part of Florida.
Yes.
Yes. If they're from Miami, I would say also if they left Florida and they do not intend to go back, they are probably safe.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, and I think that's probably because there's similar ethnic makeup, there's similar appreciation for music. There's also, you know, people will make fun of it, but they don't understand how much there is to it.
It's a misunderstood.
Yes.
It's a misunderstood state. I support your theory. Actually, my best friend's parents are here. And so she's a Southern California native and I'm a New Jersey sort of native, mostly native. I moved there when I was 4, you guys. And you know, we've been best friends for over a decade. The Long Island thing is interesting.
It's like an occasional thing. It's sort of okay, we'll allow this.
I feel like I get along really well with people from Long Island because, first of all, because I pronounce it Long Island, and they're like, that's familiar to me. But like, there's a lot of similarities and a lot of overlap there, but they will always have one over us because when they are abroad, or like, they don't even have to be abroad. When they're traveling and somebody says, "Where are you from?" they get to say New York.
I get it.
And they have Billy Joel, who is my number one.
I mean, they do have Billy Joel. It's true.
So I don't know. I guess like I have a little bit of, I'm realizing now in real time, maybe I have a little bit of Long Island envy. I don't know.
I get it. I mean, I will admit that while I was reading this, there's times that Winnie, Caroline's best friend, is a little bit, she's a little bit salty about LA. And there was a part of me that was like, we can say that, you can't.
Right. Oh my God, totally.
Although obviously, you know, things happen and Winnie has her own arc in this.
Yes.
But friendship, I think, is a really important part of this book.
Yes.
And including friendship with, you know, her first like really big crush and reconnecting with him. I think that we discussed how, you know, people were like, oh, is this book a romance? But it's more of like a second coming of age.
It is. It definitely feels like that to me too. And I try to be careful when I'm explaining. I know that like, I don't know, it's when you put out a book and people are like, what's the synopsis? And you're just like, yeah. You like panic and you're like, yeah, I'm trying to like still, I thought that I would like have this figured out by the time the book was out. And I'm still trying to come up with like a neat log line because romance readers, and we talked about this too, like romance readers are the savviest readers on earth.
They are.
Like, they know what they like. They know like what percentage of the book they like need certain things to happen. And they're keeping the lights on at the publishers. Like, they are like the most voracious readers. They're so savvy, so smart. And I live in fear of disappointing them. I'm just like, I don't, you know, I do think that there's appeal here. Like, there's a love story in here. So I do think that there's like a little bit, it sounds like dumb to be like, there's something for everyone. But I'm like, if you like romance, I think that there's a great chance that you'll like the book because there is a romance in the book. There's a love story in the book, but I don't want to like give it to people and be like, it's a romance novel,
Right.
because then they're gonna be like, I'm 25% of the way through and like XYZ hasn't happened yet. And
Right.
like, we're talking about baseball and the stone pony, like what the hell is going on here?
Yeah.
But I do think that it's, you know, it's a love story, it's a friendship story, and it's a family story. Like it has
Right.
all of these, like, that makes it a love story to me, you know? Like
Yeah.
it's like it's familial and friend stuff too. So
Yeah, there's a little bit of every kind of love.
Yeah.
You know, there's romantic love, there's romantic love, there's familial love, there's friendship, there's and I think there's also, I mean, you could also argue that there's self-love in there as well.
Definitely.
Because it's also about, you know, taking care of yourself and you know, learning how to take care of yourself.
Yes.
And learning how to trust yourself and trust other people, and also trust a group of people and a team that maybe you don't always get along with,
Yes.
but you have to.
You find common ground somehow.
Yes, exactly. So let's see. I'm trying to think of what have we not talked about yet. I mean, I think that it's just, it really is about love, and it really is about discovery. Did you know what kind of book you wanted to write when you set out with this, or did you just kind of let it?
That's such a good question.
Yeah.
I had a different agent when I first started writing the book,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like it would, I don't know, I feel like it would like trip me out a little bit to go back and find the original email, but I could go back and find the original email. I was working on a nonfiction project, which is why I ended up switching agents. He was wonderful, but we had been working on a nonfiction project together, and I needed an agent who was prepared to sell book club fiction and had those contacts. So I remember emailing him and being like, I'm playing around with this like mistress document, and I like pitched it to him, and I was like, it's very Jersey, it's very Jewish, and it's like if the Sedaris siblings wrote a League of Their Own. That was like what I had in my head. And I just remember thinking, like, when I did finish that first draft, I'm like, it's not really like that, but I like that was like very aspirational to go in with. I'm
Right.
like, if the Sedaris siblings wrote, I'm like, yeah, you're a fucking Sedaris sibling. Yeah. So I had that vision for it, and like it's a little League of Their Own-y. It came I netted out somewhere with it. But I think that like anybody who's written a book, like you go in with your like, I have this thing in my head. I see the meme all the time that it's like the like beautiful like horse statue and then like the sad drawing of the horse. It's like how it was in my head, my first draft.
Well, I mean, in some ways it's probably a bit, I mean, I do not have any children, but I imagine it is a bit like having a child in a way where you can be like, oh yeah, I bet that this kid is going to grow up to be this or that. And it's like, nope, the kid always surprises you.
Yeah, I don't have kids either, but I'm like, low key, like I could see that. Like,
yeah,
I could get that.
I mean, this is just what I've heard from my dad, who raised 5 and still kind of looks at us all sometimes like, where are you? How did you come from?
Yeah.
How did you come from? Exactly. But yeah, I mean, I think that I think the book is, you know, it feels like a fun, funny book, but I think that there is like layers of depth underneath it. And I think especially the story of sobriety. And yeah, I am also somebody who, I had to stop drinking alcohol a couple of years ago because of some blood pressure problems. And it was strange how it had affected my relationships.
Oh,
yeah. And things like that. And also how coming back home affected relationships. And you see like which are the friendships that you're going to keep and which are the ones that are not.
Yes.
So do you also have, I know we've talked a little bit about your favorite characters.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I do have favorites.
Yeah, do you?
I do. My favorite, I have 2 favorites. My first favorite is Winnie because I love writing a best friend character. And I really feel like Winnie is an amalgam of like 3 of my best friends that I had growing up. I don't want to put her on the spot, but one of them is here with me. Sorry. I've like talked about Heather in every event so far, and everyone's like, we get it. You're obsessed with Heather. So I love like playing around with that kind of like amalgam. And I'm supposed to be like, no, nobody's based on anybody. All the characters are me and none of the characters are me. But like Winnie is very like I took like attributes of her from 3 of my closest friends and from myself. And I just felt like she was great comic relief because we're dealing with, you know, parental illness and parental aging and DUI. And like, it can be like a lot if you don't have somebody in there kind of breaking it up. And it's like, I loved the scenes where Winnie would come in and kind of like break it up a little bit. And I think
probably fun to write too, right?
Very fun to write.
Yeah.
And I think that I had fun embodying, like at the beginning of the book, this doesn't give anything away because it's at the beginning, but like at the beginning of the book, you hear a lot from Winnie being like very anti anybody leaving New York City. And I moved to New York like maybe a year or two before that like anthology came out that was like goodbye to all that. Like every writer who's ever lived in New York is like, we don't like New York anymore. Like why we left. And I just, you know, I was 23 and I was like so mad. I'm like, good, go home. Like now there's more room on the 4 train for me. So I liked to, I don't know, I had fun like embodying that kind of like acute brattiness that I had when I was 23 and like giving a little bit of that to Winnie and being like, these suckers leaving New York. And I loved writing Serene Jackson, who is a musician character, who's not like she's not like a main character in the book, but I think that she's like one of the more fun side characters because I grew up like thinking that, I don't know, I liked being the center of attention growing up. I like to joke that I was born without stage fright. And then like I've been doing book events and I'm like, you joked about that one too many times because like now you have stage fright. But I don't know, I liked to be the center of attention as a child, but I'm like a triple threat, like can't sing, can't act, can't dance. And I just felt very painfully aware that I had like no show talents. And so writing a character who is a performer and who can like have that sort of like stage presence and bravado, that was really fun because like I'm like, you know, I'm like Stevie Nicks, but talentless is what I like to tell people. Like, I'm just like, I would love to like get up and do that, but like, I have nothing to follow it. So like the fact that I can write this singer character who like loves to be on stage and like, you know, when there's a scene where they do sober karaoke because it's like, what is more terrifying than doing karaoke sober? So we're going to try it. You know, when Caroline is feeling like very frazzled during that scene, like Serene just picks up the mic. She's been sober for years and she's like launches into it and she's like basically the MC. I loved that. I loved writing.
She's a great character. I mean, I think that she's kind of like one of those people that you see like maybe like sometimes like in high school or college, you'd like see a girl and you'd be like, wow, that girl is really cool, really beautiful, you know, and you'd be like, I bet she's really mean though. She's got to be mean, right? Yeah. She's got to be mean.
You're like, she's too pretty to be nice.
Exactly. She's too cool. Yeah, she's so cool and she's so hot. Like, of course she doesn't want to talk to me. And then she comes over and she's just like, hey, how are you doing? And you're like, you're nice too? Yeah.
So annoying.
Yeah. It's annoying, but then you're also kind of in love. So
no. And they like smoke American Spirit cigarettes and they give you one. And you're like,
there's definitely. I immediately was like, okay, I know. Yeah, I know who this girl is.
No, I know exactly who she is.
Yeah.
Too. So
yeah.
We all have one, right?
Yeah. I think mine sometimes, mine is also sober and I see her liking very strange and things and about on Instagram sometimes.
Okay, yeah.
Also just a lot of dog photos too, because she's normal like that too sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, she likes dogs.
Yeah.
So do we want to open it up?
Yeah.
To any questions from the audience? And if not, I mean, we're two talkative Jewish girls. We could probably keep on talking.
No crash.
But
we probably have lots more.
Yes.
Hi. I was wondering, what are your favorite books that you haven't had like any involvement in, like you haven't narrated or written or whatever, like, and why?
Oh my God, that's such a good question.
That is a good question.
Do you want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, my favorite book, I'll give you a favorite fiction book and a favorite nonfiction book. Okay, my favorite fiction book of all time, and like I went to college for literature and everyone was bringing in like, this is my favorite novel, like by like Nabokov. And I'm just like, this is my favorite novel and it's a Judy Blume book. It's called Summer Sisters. It's an adult novel. She wrote like actually now she's written 4 adult novels, but it's the adult novel that she wrote in the late 90s. And my best friend she took me to the library and like made me check it out when I was 14. And I read it every single year. And now like it's about these 2 best friends and it starts when they're 12, I want to say. And it ends when they're like, unfortunately for me, 32. And I read it every single summer. I cry. And I cried really hard 2 summers ago because I was like, well, I'm older than they are. So that's my favorite novel. And Jenna Bush Hager, I believe, picked up the TV option for it. So she made it her book club pick last summer and they gave it a new cover and it's so beautiful. I like to bring my old disgusting one to the pool every year. But
of course, you got to.
To each their own. My favorite nonfiction book is a collection of essays called Boys of My Youth by Joanne Beard.
Oh my gosh. Okay. God. Yeah, one of my all-time favorite books. One of my all-time favorite. I'm sorry, I attacked the mic, but that is one of my all-time favorites.
Oh my God, I forgot about
I love that you gasped over there too. I love that we all like simultaneous laughed. Such an underrated book.
A gasp of recognition for Joanne Beard. I'm among my people.
Yes. Yes.
I forgot about this, Mike. I went really bold and wore the Mara Hoffman dress tonight. So if there's any kind of wardrobe malfunction, let's just do like a Carol Burnett, like ear tug for me, please. That goes for everyone on camera too. Joanne Beard, nobody can write a sentence like Joanne Beard. And I'm trying to think of like, she has like a checklist of 4 things that have to go into every sentence for her. Mm. I'm not going to think of them on the spot, but she's amazing. That book is amazing. There's an essay in there. It's not the last essay, but it should have been. It's called The Fourth State of Matter. I would start there. It's one of the best essays, in my opinion, ever written.
Yeah.
Before I wrote this novel, I only wrote nonfiction. And it's because I took an introduction to memoir class in college and we read Joanne Beard and I was like, this is what I'm going to do with my life. Like I was I'm still so obsessed with her. I met her once and I just like cried on her.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oof. Yeah.
I know that book is one that stayed with me. And yeah, it's funny because that is I would say that is a book that I tell people when they ask me a lot what my favorite books are. I feel like I read so many books these days that I can't even remember I'm like, what are my all-time favorites? That's a really hard thing to decide. So now I'm just kind of thinking about books that I've read recently that I really liked.
That's a good.
I finally read the Neapolitan novels and really loved them. Finally listened to them. I mean, I listened to an audiobook of Pride and Prejudice, finally. I really liked The Three-Body Problem, some hard science fiction, super weird. I also liked Kim Stanley Robinson's Aurora. That's a book that I really liked. He's a science fiction writer, but he's much more interested in like how he's not like, let's talk about spaceships. He's like, let's talk about how the future is going to change human beings and their relationships to each other. And Judy Blume, I've actually been reading a lot of as well lately. And Summer Sisters is the one that I haven't read, but
oh man, I can't wait.
I've been reading. I always have a book that I read before I go to sleep.
Yeah.
And the one that I've been working on right now is Smart Women. And
nobody knows Smart Women.
Smart Women is great. I finished Wifey. I read Wifey for the first time.
Is phenomenal.
Yeah, Wifey is hilarious in a very dark way. So
also a Jersey novel. Jersey novelist. Can I give you one more? This is my favorite book that Mara has been involved with. Unsolicited, but I need to tell you. Mrs. Nash's Ashes.
Yes.
I'm so obsessed.
Shout out to Sarah Adler.
Sarah Adler is amazing. Her sophomore novel's coming out in
I did that too.
a week. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So now we're about to have to.
Sarah doesn't know. I don't think Sarah knows how much of a fangirl I am about. I mean, Hollis, come on.
Stop.
Like,
He's
yeah.
perfect.
He is the sexiest guy.
It's such a good book. I remember when like the deal was announced on Publishers Marketplace, like I think I was like still trying to find an agent for this book. And so I was like deep in the trades every day. And I saw the deal announcement for that book and I was like, this book sounds so good. I like need to keep track of this woman and see like when this book's coming out, what's happening. And the day that it came out, I had 3 copies sent to my house because I kept forgetting that I pre-ordered it and like got excited and pre-ordered it again. And then I listened to your audiobook narration of it and the audiobook is so good.
Thank
my
you.
God,
Thank
so
you.
Good. So highly recommend if that's not already on your radar. Sarah Adler, Mrs. Nash's Ashes. So good.
I mean, I laughed and I cried while I was recording it. So it was a full,
I can only imagine.
it was a full experience. Yeah. So yeah, definitely a great one. All right. Any other questions? Let's see.
It's okay.
It's okay if there's a lot of book events people don't ask questions, but I think that's fine.
I do too. I think it's fine too. I always go in like locked and loaded with one.
Yeah.
I always try to like keep a couple in the back of my mind because like I'm trying to think what I usually ask authors.
Can we ask, okay, what is your favorite song written in or about New Jersey?
Oh, yes. Okay, so lately a lot of folks have been posting, which is like very generous of them. They've been posting like a picture of the book on Instagram, like on their stories when they buy it and tag me in it, which is like very cool and very surreal. And the ones that have Jersey Girl, like Bruce Springsteen, Jersey Girl, which was not written by Bruce Springsteen. It was written by Tom Waits. Thank you. Oh my God. Tom Waits. And I was going to say Leonard Cohen, so I'm glad that you jumped in.
They're in the same sort of.
They're growly.
They're growly. Leonard Cohen is he's Canadian and Jewish.
Yes.
I know that because my sister is still in love with him, and every guy she's ever dated looks a little bit like Leonard Cohen. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that he was from Canada until I was in Montreal last year. I'd never been to Canada before. And my husband and I were like lost, like walking around somewhere like in the rain. Like picked my head up and there was just a giant mural of his face. I was like, is that Leonard Cohen? Like,
they're very proud. They're very proud.
They're very proud.
Yeah.
I would be too.
Yeah.
That song makes me cry. Like I don't know. I remember like the first year that I lived in Brooklyn, like coming home on Thanksgiving Eve. I'm obsessed with Thanksgiving Eve for some reason. I remember like coming home and like, oh my God, hi. Coming home and like, you know, you're in your early 20s, biggest party night of the year. You're going to like go to like the hometown bar. They're going to play Glory Days. And I'm like listening to Bruce Springsteen. I'm literally like on the train, crossing over to the Jersey side, listening to Jersey Girl, and I'm just like crying. And I don't know, it just got to me. And so that song reminds me of being away from home for real for the first time and going back and being like, okay, I love you a little bit, you know? Mm-hmm. So that's where I'm at now. I also love the epigraph in this book actually is from a song called Neptune City by Nicole Atkins, who was born in Neptune City, is like an Asbury Park local icon. She was also a sober musician, like put out a whole album about sobriety. And that song specifically is about like learning to love where you were born, which is why I had to make it the epigraph, obviously. So right now, those are my top 2.
I wish somebody would write a song like that about Burbank, California. Don't think. I mean,
I love Burbank, so like,
yes,
it could be me.
Yeah, you could. I
can't sing it as I can't perform.
You could write a book about Burbank. I mean,
we had some good Burbank times.
Yeah, there's some fun times in Burbank. The Donut Hut.
The Donut Hut.
You know, Tony's Darts Away. You know.
Do you also have an all-time favorite baseball player? It's Derek Jeter. I have his number tattooed on my back, which everyone can see in this very revealing dress. It's Derek Jeter.
Commitment.
Yeah, it's Derek Jeter. The year that he retired, I went to spring training in Florida. I went to every single homestand, and I brought one person with me, and I would like interview them about like I wanted to write a book. I was like 24 years old and had stars in my eyes. I'm like, I'm gonna write a book about Derek Jeter's last year and call it, what did I want to call it? There Will Never Be Another You.
Wow. I mean,
guys, I'm so glad that this is my debut. I'm so glad that this is my debut and not anything else that I wrote in my 20s. And I would bring a different person and like interview them about their experience with baseball. One time somebody lied to me and he was like, I just wanted to like come to the game with you and like be on like a date.
Wow.
I was like, I don't really like baseball. And I'm like, you're fucking up my book. And it was the only time I was ever on the Jumbotron in my life, was on a date with this man.
Oh no. Who lied to you?
He was very cute. Like, not a bad person to be on the Jumbotron with. He looked like baby Robert Downey Jr.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm getting away from myself. My favorite baseball player, Derek Jeter. I went to his last game in Boston that year. Fenway Park, despite being the home of my enemies, the number one place to watch baseball. Like everyone thinks that I'm like joking because, you know, the first time we ever went, I had to have a police escort. Yeah. And I was almost carried out by security.
Really?
Yeah. I sung my own words to Sweet Caroline and they didn't like it.
Oh no.
But we were sitting by the bullpen and I made Mariano Rivera laugh.
Yeah.
And they love him in Boston. And so I was like, I made Mo laugh. Like, you have to let me stay. And they were like, all right. But yeah,
Boston justice. Yeah.
Yeah. I would follow Derek Jeter to the ends of the earth. I just think that like he is everything to me. Growing up, my favorite baseball player was Roger Maris. I was trying to be a contrarian. I watched that like Billy Crystal movie that he made for HBO. And I was like, I'm a Maris girl forever.
Yeah.
So there you go. Childhood favorite, adult favorite.
Yes. These are all really great. Do you think it's true about Derek Jeter and the gift basket?
Okay, it's 100% true.
Is it? Okay, all right.
100% true. And I was made privy to that information. Wait, I shouldn't tell this story. It's not. Sorry, Heather's not involved.
I was like, are there any children here? I don't think so.
Like, I hate saying like, am I allowed to swear? Because I'm from New Jersey, and so we don't even say swear, we say curse, which is like even more lowbrow than being like, am I allowed to swear? I'm like, am I allowed to curse? And the answer is no, and then I do it anyway. So I'm sorry.
So does anybody not know what the Derek Jeter gift basket story is?
Oh my God.
Zibby,
I'm so sorry.
He apparently he apparently
it's really nice.
It is kind of nice. It is kind of nice. Yeah. I was actually thinking of including a reference to that in something that I wrote, but apparently when he sleeps with somebody, he gives them a gift basket.
Yeah.
After
he sends them home in the car with a gift basket, and all the gift baskets include signed baseball.
I forgot about that.
Wait, and toothbrushes.
Really?
Oh my God.
Wow.
Wait. I did not know
I mean,
that.
honestly, I think that's a lot better than a lot of men, treat women.
My sister told me.
She knows.
The way I would frame that toothbrush, this is my Derek Jeter toothbrush in the shadow box. It's over. That would go above my bed. My husband would be like, what is this doing here? And I'll be like, you will never know.
I wonder if you can buy one on eBay.
I am so good at eBay. I have the craziest
Courtney,
eBay
give it you might want to look that up.
It's going on my watch list.
Yeah, explain it to your husband.
It's going on the watch list
yes.
for sure. Thank you for that tip.
All right. Do we have any other questions?
They're like, I know more about you than I ever wanted to know. I'm so
the Kate she works for.
Oh my God, she does.
Oh.
We'll talk about this offline, but yes. Sorry, we have like a first degree connection to Derek Jeter, so we'll get back to you about the toothbrushes, maybe.
So is there a question over here?
Can I be that person that just continuously asks questions?
Yes.
I've been very excited for this.
Oh my God, yes.
I like books and I like writing, and also I have been a Mara Wilson fan since I was like 2.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Until the movie memorized.
Oh,
my
thank
God,
you.
yes.
Thank you so much.
But I was wondering, it is sort of a question for you. I am a really big fan of Welcome to Night Vale.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know if we will see the Faceless Old Woman in any upcoming episodes?
I don't think anytime soon because they've been busy with other stuff. But you know, it is entirely possible, and she's everywhere and nowhere at once. So you know, she can show up anywhere. And that was actually one of the books that got me into doing audiobooks. That was one of the first audiobooks I did, and now it is something that I do all the time, and I absolutely love. And I get to do wonderful books like this one. So I am forever grateful for that.
I love that book.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's something that I absolutely love. All right. Any other questions, or do we want to go ahead and move it along?
Yeah.
All
Thank you
right.
guys so much.
Thank you guys so much for coming.
And thank you, Laura. So
Thank
much.
you. And another round of applause for Courtney, please.
So grab a copy. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. I'm breaking your microphone.
Yeah, it feels like you're breaking it, doesn't it?
Yeah.